Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terribles over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
How I want to answer the second one.
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Port Royal Speedway. We've got Devin Board with us.
At Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep.
Hey, what's going on? Turn 2 Terribles. Jimmy Barr here with Chris and Jeremy. It is April 2nd. We're recording this a little bit of a day early. Just not much to talk about this week. And we kind of got some other things going on this week. So still wanted to get just some talking points out there on what we thought from this past weekend. Not terribly a lot to talk about, but we did get the Port on Saturday. Everything else is pretty much a wash around here. And then we did get the Outlaws. So let's start with, I guess, with around here. Port Royal on Saturday. They moved there. Well, first, Friday, Williams Grove rained out. Probably the right call. It was pretty nasty Thursday, Friday. Just nasty weather. It was nasty weather, obviously, all weekend. And then Saturday, late Friday night, Port Royal announced that they were going to move up their start time to avoid some weather from 4 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And it was beautiful. I got sunburnt on the back of my neck and on my arms a little bit. It was like 72 degrees and sunny, a little bit breezy, but it was beautiful out and a decent crowd out. You know, they were really pushing for people to get out there, and it looks like people did. And ended up, you know, they had 410s, super lates, limited lates, and they got everything in. And I left a little bit early, but Jeremy was there in the limited late model Victory Lane, and it just started raining as they were doing the interview. So hats off to them for really pushing, getting it through. Track did lay down a little bit of rubber naturally with it being so warm and sunny, and then it got kind of dusty. So
it got dusty from the first hot lap session.
Yeah.
But it was a product of them trying to be prepared for whatever. And that was the best case scenario. There was a little bit of tire issues at the end of the sprint car feature. But to be expected, honestly, like I went into that with low expectations on track quality based on what was happening versus like the BAP situation the weekend before. Yeah. So this didn't surprise me, nor was I disappointed. got to see an entire event. The statistics on this, by the way, were at Port Royal 9 qualifying events, 3 features, full warm ups, 2 hours 18 minutes.
Yeah, that was
Start to finish.
they pushed through it. I know at one point they wanted the spritz to track, so to help with some of the rubber being laid down, but it was getting at one point. I think it was right before the Super B, the Super Late Model B main, and my weather app was saying rain was 20 minutes away, so you had to go. But it ended up not really raining. It got windy, but
right, that's just a product. I mean, to get the race in, you had to compromise somewhere, and maybe
Yep.
what I'm sure what Steinley and those guys would love to do would be to till the track and make it better, but that wasn't an option. And props to them for being proactive and making a good situation out of what was probably going to be another lost race for them. They haven't raced in a month since opening day.
And I don't know what crystal ball that they use for weather, but I'm telling you, I stayed. I didn't try to do the double at Lincoln. If I ended up at Lincoln and I got there when I got there, I decided to stay, watch the limited late model feature. And I'm telling you, I was taking pictures of Devin Hart and Victory Lane, walking back to my car and putting my hood up before I crossed over 3 and 4 because it started raining. Perfect, absolutely perfect timing. Like raining to the point where they would call caution. Like, okay, that was enough. There was a little spritz here or there and a drizzle, but I'm telling you, Victory Lane, it started, and I was like, whoa. And it quickly went from mid 70s to 58 degrees and windy in a matter of 25 minutes.
Yeah,
like
it was quick.
It was wild.
It was during the 410 feature that change kind of happened.
So it was interesting. You guys could probably elaborate more. I was at work, kind of following it on Twitter. So for you're saying the track was dry, dusty, there was still some racing, good racing. I mean, I saw Jay Flick had the pole, and he dropped to 7th. I think he ended up finishing. Jason Schultz leads till lap 23.
Yeah,
and then Calamity. I mean, Danny inherits the lead, started 6th, I think it was, and you had Lucas Wolf back in Victory Lane getting around the. I guess Danny missed the bottom. It looked like when the replay. And Lucas was, hey, I got this.
Yeah, the race was awesome. I mean, it went green until 2 laps to go when Schultz unfortunately blew a tire. But him, Danny, they were slicing and dicing through traffic. You had Lucas getting in there. Even Logan Wagner was getting involved in there. Gerard McIntyre was there the whole time. He finished 3rd. And it was fun to watch. It was a little slick. I know it wasn't ideal conditions, but it still put on a hell of a race. And that place went nuts for Lucas. It was so cool to see him win. It's been a long time, but the place went nuts.
Huge following. I don't know if someone even has a stat available to or anyone, but I don't know what his last win was. As big as it's been, has he won in the 5W in 410 since leaving the 24 car to come over? I don't know.
I'm not sure about 410s. I think he's won a 360 somewhere.
But he still carries a massive following. He kills it in the merch sales. His cars always look great. So for a guy that's won as much as he did early in his career, Speed Week championships, track championships, it's cool to see him back. That's another quality car we need here that can clearly contend.
Yeah. Agree on every single point of that. And Jimmy's point with the crowd was, I don't know if they were more excited for Lucas or that he beat Danny. I'm not sure.
Either way.
Because it was a pretty loud cheer when he passed him. So I just wonder if the crowd was as loud if he passed, I don't know, anybody else.
Probably anyone but Dylan Cisney, they would have run nuts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and also I was in the pit grandstand. There was a couple Danny fans sitting immediately around me, and they weren't even like upset. You know what I mean? Like they were upset Danny lost, but like.
It's always cool.
There's not many people that dislike Lucas Wolf, man.
Right.
I mean, it was just a very popular win.
It's a guy that races clean, works at it, shows up to damn near every race we have in the whole area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's been around. Like I remember 05 was that his rookie year, somewhere around there, and he went out in the Outlaw Tour a little bit after that. He was winning Speed Week championships and everything. So we kind of forget about him being an old timer like Lance Weiss because he was so young when he came in. But it's good for Lucas Wolf.
Yeah, it was pretty cool for sure. And that car, I know everybody's running out of tire. Everybody's tires were pretty smooth, and he could drive off the corner so much harder than Danny could. Danny could throw it in there and get close to him, but Lucas had so much drive off the corner. He got that clean air and drive. He was gone. I didn't realize he was obviously that fast because he hung around that 3rd, 4th area and battled with those guys the whole feature, and then all of a sudden it was like boom, leader gone. So. Yeah, it was pretty cool for sure. It was more exciting race than it should have probably been based on the conditions. 1 and 2, they could really spread out and do different things. 3 and 4 was pretty locked down at the bottom, all up a lane. But there were still passes and sliders happening in 3 and 4. That's where I stood just in case I had to make a quick exit. There were still some. I mean, guys were tossing it into 3 and 4, like Macri and Logan and Borden. The typical cast of characters you would think were really driving it deep into 3 and 4 times and trying to blow it down so it didn't just wash up across the track and you were going off exit. So much more entertaining than I expected it to end up being because they got to lap traffic. The runs off, the runs like middle 1 and 2, exit of 1 and 2 were massive. If you got held up, you got stuck in the middle and you floated it. The guys were ripping around the top and or sliders or whatever the case may be. And obviously, I think that the fence was the fastest in 1 and 2, which really surprised me how it impressed me. Jason Schultz's run to stay in the lead that long with the guys that were there, because that was a pretty much you had to be on the fence in 1 and 2 to make the time, and it was narrow. It was there wasn't much there. And in 1 and 2, 3 and 4, everybody was kind of running the same thing. If you had your car right in 3 and 4 and you hit the rubber, you were fast. So kudos to that team. I felt I was devastated when I saw it was them, because when the yellow came out, it was funny. I saw a car being towed in through the pits on a flat tire. I was like, okay, we got tire issues starting. And all of a sudden, I'm like, where's the 35? I didn't know the yellow came out for him. I thought the yellow came out and there's a car coming in, a different car coming in with a tire low or out. And I didn't realize it was the 35. So I was kind of heartbroken for those guys. Like, they're there every week. They show up. They moved into the 410 deal, and they want to be they're going to be full-time 410. So would have been cool to see him get that win, but I can't hate on Lucas winning for sure.
No, it was definitely an entertaining race. He had a different mix of guys up there. Gerard McIntyre with an awesome run too. He's never really a guy that you don't expect to be up there, but he was in the mix the whole time, and I think he started second or third and just stayed up there the whole time. So good run by him. And then I'm sure Danny fans were a little upset, but it was still a great run by Danny. I mean, he had to come from a few spots back, and there was a couple times when they were getting in through traffic, Jason would slide them and get a couple cars ahead, and then Danny would, come charging down the backstretch around them, and it was cool. It was watching the cat and mouse game through lap traffic was fun. So
and PBR for everybody, boys. PBR for everybody.
Little drama also after, it sounds like, with Justin Whittle and Jeff Halligan, and we saw clips obviously from Loose Media, which stuff's awesome, right? You've seen it's the story behind the story, because I don't know if anybody, unless you're watching those two cars, realize this happened, because I didn't. Jimmy didn't.
I didn't see it at all.
So shout out to Mr. Loose.
Tired panda.
I'm not going to make it.
We got tired panda.
But with that being said, and now the internet battle has started on this part of it. So, I think a lot of people at first glance kind of were on the Halligan side of this, and Justin was being a little overboard with.
Did you see the update today? Is that what you're going with this?
Go ahead.
It showed the GoPro of Whittle and Halligan back and forth.
A little bit, yeah. So this
that changed the narrative a little bit.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going with this a little bit. And I saw a couple things that were sort of like, hey, the stuff that you're seeing isn't the whole story here and how that race went. So to me, it just sounds like, two guys fired up fighting for the same piece of track throughout a race, and it just boiled over to the what we saw at the end there. So a little drama. Keep an eye on that for sure. That super late model feature was fairly dominated, by the way. Drake the Kid Troutman, young guy. Was talking to a gentleman in the pits as we were walking to Victory Lane, and said that he was, I think, running some modifieds maybe, and did really, really well in those, and moved up to these super lates, and he's already winning. Might be a name to keep an eye on in those ranks. I don't know much about him. I've heard the name, but sounds like might be a name to keep an eye on this year for sure. And
shout out to that whole division. They had 31 super lates, on short notice too. It's definitely becoming a late model track there a little bit at Port, and they get a strong showing every time. And there's players there every time. And you had Satterley there, you had Trevor Feathers, Rick Eckert, Austin Berry, and then Troutman comes out and wins. So it's definitely a strong field.
It's a cool thing, and we talked about it at the opener with late models being at Port Royal wants to be at a 410 sprint car late model track, and it's one of the few places I personally can watch late models and have a good time.
Yeah, same.
When they're at Williams Grove or wherever, I'm like, so I think it speaks to the track and
Mhm.
its prep and how they race, but also the quality of cars that they're getting to show up to that. So props to all the divisions and
I would
Port
say
Royal.
I would definitely say it's the premier late model track in probably Pennsylvania, maybe besides if you go to the west.
West, yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, great time on Saturday. Hats off to Port Royal and getting that in, pushing it through, despite everything. And it was beautiful out though before that B main, all the heats and everything. It was gorgeous out, man. It just got me hyped. I was thinking the whole time, like, I can't wait for Weichert weekend, camping out and getting into the summer here. And now that we're into April now, it's starting to become a reality where we're really gonna. I know these rainouts that have been happening really suck, but I mean, in reality, it's been March, and we're not really even into the meat at all of race season yet. So when we get into June and July and we look back, we won't even remember that we lost 5, 6, 7 races because we'll be having 4 races a week in the summer. You know what I mean? Because we're spoiled like that around here. So
yeah, and shout out Devin Hart in the 358 late models. He's an Addicted to Dirt PR guy. He's on that driver roster for Rich and those folks over at AD Addicted to Dirt. So he dominated that feature. Really wasn't challenged. Started up near the front there and never looked back. Even had a late race caution. A little bit of a challenge on the last lap, and it really wasn't. So shout out to him. That's his second win of the season already in that division. They didn't have a ton of cars, but I think that's a pretty good division. I think there's a few heavy hitter, good competitors there. At least at Port Royal, that's a big division around the area. But it was cool to see him win too, getting victory lane. He was he finished second, I think, last year at one point when I first met him. Whatever the case may be, but that was pretty cool to see him get that win. So good family. It was funny, Victory Lane. His mother was in Victory Lane, and I guess he's a sister, and she was at a rodeo. She does something in rodeo, and she won her event earlier in the day, and they just got to Port Royal at the end of the event. So both kids had, the Hart family had quite a weekend. So it's
that's awesome.
Cool. Yeah,
good for them. Before we get into the Lincoln, what could have been double, there were 2 accidents, incidents, whatever, outside of the speedway leaving there. Mike Wagner's hauler unfortunately got into a head-on accident with somebody. It sounded like one person was hospitalized, but everybody's relatively okay. Didn't look like too much damage on his hauler, so hopefully everything gets turned around for them, and they didn't lose too much there.
The other truck did not look as good.
No. Andrew Yoder, that whole trailer went up in flames. They got the car out, but the front of the car was pretty burnt up, and everything in that trailer was gone. All their brand new merch they were talking about, all gone. Everything, tires, there's nothing left. Unfortunate. There is a GoFundMe out there. I'll try to link it on our social this week, because that's a shame. I mean, he just came off. I think he finished 9th in the super late model feature, and that's a shame.
Brutal.
You don't ever want to see that, and it was bad. I mean, you go and see some of the pictures. It's fully engulfed in flames.
And I think it's worth mentioning a shout out to the crew. From what I was reading, they did a good job not only getting the car out, but they got they moved the hauler down away to try to get away from houses and stuff.
Yep.
So props to them. On 2 fronts for safety of everyone else, and doing the best they could to not make it a bigger situation.
Yeah. So unfortunately, and the weather was getting pretty bad. I know Jeremy stayed. I left middle of the super late model feature because as soon as the super late model feature got going, I started going through the pits, and all the 410 guys were hustling to get. I thought maybe some of them were trying to hustle to get the Lincoln, but I think they were just trying to hustle to beat the weather. But like half the guys were 3/4 of the way loaded up, and I followed. Like there's a bunch of them that got out before I did. So, So unfortunate to see that. You just hope that everybody's okay at the end of the day, and it sounds that way. So that's the main thing. Then Lincoln, I did sound like, I think I saw somebody say maybe Halligan went to Lincoln, or I don't know, but I think a couple of the guys tried to do the double, if I'm not mistaken, but it ended up raining as soon as they were about to go out for motor heat or they're about to do driver's meeting. It was pretty
I
close.
think they were doing. Brett Strickler said he was out for motor heat.
Okay, and it started raining, and
It started to rain a little, and then it hailed within a minute, and then it was kind of over. It was big time. That storm line that went through there was tracking for them, and as it got within like 15 miles of the track, it just exploded in intensity, and it was over. So
good. They tried to get it in. It did look like it was going to be kind of 50-50, and at night it was going to be okay. So even if it did blow through quick, they might have been okay, but it was soaking rain. Like it was a lot. If it wasn't so heavy of a rain, they probably still would have been able to get it in, but it was just too much. So
yeah, it's easy to have a look at game film and say, hey, you should have moved your day up like Port Royal did. But the weather forecast at Port Royal was slightly different than it was south and east. Mm-hmm. South and east was if you got it, you're probably going to get it heavier, but there was less chance of getting it. Mm-hmm. Is kind of what I gathered, and there were areas I drove home and never got really rained on. I followed it, and it never rained hard at any point on my way home, and it was like scattered and breaking up. So, I mean, Lincoln's always going to be the track that gives the effort. I think in hindsight, you look at it and go, yeah, they should have just moved it up like Port. Look at Port. They got their racing.
Yeah. I also,
I think
part of that too, I mean, Lincoln, this would be probably a better question for someone at Lincoln, but once Port moves up, does Lincoln feel kind of obligated to not move up in the hopes someone to get double, especially with their report looks better as the day went on?
If you wanted people to do the double, you would change your time every week.
Yeah.
Because they would compete against each other every single week.
Fair.
Throughout the season. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it forces them to do. I think they need. They're taking care of number one first.
So, question:
if they knew they could get the race in by moving it to 2 or 3 or whatever o'clock, then they would.
I mean, honestly, it looks like it was going to work out car wise for them anyway. They had a full pits, and now the stands were not. But I don't know how early that was. And was that a flow racing race or no?
No, it was not.
I wish it was because I would have watched it.
Well, that's one of the interesting things, though. Jimmy, you talked about last week where they had a bad crowd and they're going to blame it on the flow. This is one where the crowd wasn't there. Similar situation, I think, for Lincoln's side. Very similar situation as last week, except last week they got the race. This week it rained. I think that should be noted. The track, it's not just streaming.
I don't think it should be noted at all either week because the weather was so
iffy and
that's
the point I'm making.
That's kind of the note was the weather was bad anyway.
So. Has no idea either way. It's the same exact situation as last week, except they got the race in.
Yeah,
the rain was earlier in the day, of course, and it was still cold and windy as hell and everything like that. Yeah. But this week it went the other way. But the fans did. They're like, no. For the most part, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, they got rained out. And then Bridgeport was supposed to race today, this Sunday, and they got a lot of pretty much all the storms that blew through from us, blew through to them overnight pretty bad, and they had to call off today. Unfortunately, they had to call off Saturday, too. Saturday and Sunday, they had an open practice on Friday night, and that's all they got in. So unfortunate for them. It's just kind of how it's been going around here. Selinsgrove also had to cancel their race. They were supposed to have the 305s on Saturday night, and they canceled very early. Well, another track that did move up that we do got to give a shout out to is Path Valley. They raced at 1 o'clock. They had 600 micros and wingless sportsmen. So one of our T2T drivers, Brett Perigo, he finished 10th, and his uncle won the feature. So congratulations to the Perigo family there. Brett won that race last year. Then his uncle wins, this year. So they moved up. They had to deal with the same things Port dealt with, a little bit of rubber, dry track in the sun, but they got it in, and they had a lot of cars there, it looked like, and I'm not sure about the crowd, but I'm sure they had a good crowd. And shout out to Brett. I know he was a little disappointed in himself with the 10th place finish, but nothing to hang your hat on a top 10.
Underway.
Yeah, season's underway, and we're going to be seeing him a lot. And so that was pretty much the weekend here in PA. And then he had the World of Outlaws did get both of their races in down in Texas, down at Devil's Bowl Speedway, Friday and Saturday. They had a twofer. Brad Sweet won Friday night over Brent Marks, who looked. He probably was like the most consistently fast car throughout the whole weekend. Brent Marks was. Just didn't really get the win to show it. And then Saturday night, Chase McFadden won on a lockdown single file track. Not a lot of passing happening. Friday night was a pretty decent race. There was a lot of lap traffic to deal with, and it was a lot wider, and wasn't a bad race between Brent and Brad Sweet.
We're a little
Saturday
let
night
down
was
just because
what
Brent
was.
Marks didn't win, but
Yeah,
I mean, Brad's car and feature was just
so good,
head and shoulders above everybody in the field. I agree. Brent had a good car. He won there last year. Took $20,000 away. Took home. So he was definitely looking forward to going back and had speed both days. I think he dropped a little bit in the second one. I fell asleep, woke up, saw McFadden in victory lane, turned it off, went to bed, back to sleep. I couldn't stay awake. I was toast.
Yeah, that one was late.
It was late, but yeah, good racing. I mean, good for McFadden. Honestly, he's already has 2 wins on the year after one all of last year and two good paying races for them. So I feel like he's one of the good guys. Like you kind of root for him.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's it's not a Madsen, so a little less controversial. I think he's always kind of been pretty popular guy in down under and over here too. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so good for them. They go to US 36 and 81 Speedway this next week.
Jason Johnson Classic.
Yeah, Jason Johnson Classic, another $20,000 race to win, I believe. So they got Friday, Saturday. This is what I was kind of saying, where we're going to get in hot and heavy. A lot of tracks around the country are opening. We got the All-Stars starting off next weekend, Friday and Saturday at Attica. I mean, this is all obviously weather depending, but this is probably the most packed the sprint car schedule has been, obviously all of 2023 so far. So looks like we're finally going to get a Williams Grove opener in with 358s too. So it should be a good show. And then Port is racing. And is Lincoln racing on Saturday?
I think so.
I think so.
I know they are because our 358 boys are talking about doing a double, doing the Grove Lincoln back to back.
Okay. So we got the big three around here running. And then USAC starts at the Berg at Lawrenceburg. And IRA, ASCS, they're all starting back up too. So I mean, you got racing all over the country now, which is great. And obviously the All-Stars starting back up, and as long as we get to get the weather to hold off here as it gets nicer into the spring months here.
So 2 big things for Friday. If it doesn't rain, we'll see Billy Dietrich's debut in the 12 car. I'm excited for that. I think that's a car. I mean, way you know how the Grove is. If they starts up front, that car started up front a lot in the past, probably wins. But Kyle Keene, most excited. He's supposed to be there again. Pumped for that. We'll see how he was fast there a lot last year when they got the run. I look forward to that again.
For sure. Super excited for the weekend. Something else just actually came out. The High Limit tweet. Did you see that? They have 25 confirmed full-time drivers. It's pretty big for them. So if you haven't seen that news, check that out. It's quite a roster.
Anyone surprise you, Jay-Z?
No, not really. I mean, Paulie Cole Giovanni, because this series is sort of spread out, it's not a ton of races. It's not going to interfere with a ton of things. I mean, you look at the list, Paulie G.
We talked about pre-show, yeah.
Justin Henderson, Connor Morrell.
I was a little surprised by, Connor Morrell, Dusty Zomer. Like, those are kind of names Chase Randall. I guess because, and we were kind of talking like maybe because a good chunk of these are Midwest.
Maybe we're East Coast bias here.
Yeah, but I mean, there are still quite a number of them on the East Coast. I mean, you got Grandview, you got Bridgeport, you got Lernerville, just right there in the PA area. So out of the 12 races,
it's cool seeing guys like that want to join in, because I think that what Jay-Z made the point a little bit, like someone like Paulie, like we know his name. Some of these guys in the Midwest, if you don't want to go full all-star, you can now race against that level of competition and kind of measure where your program's at.
Yep.
And it's not going to really sink the cost in it, in my opinion, the way an All-Star or Outlaw Tour would. So, I mean, I could see these guys that are like floating with we've done Knoxville for 4 years, whatever it may be, to maybe, hey, let's go test the waters and see where we're truly as a program. Something like Justin Peck mentioned, leaving the All-Star Tour, at least full-time, to go test the waters and see where he's at week to week against the best in the country.
And the other thing, it really kind of makes me wonder how they'll do it when you look at the guys that are stepping out, the West Coast guys coming east, or, Paulie branched down. He's traveled a little bit, but do they take where they go with these high limit races and then spend some time out there more weeks? Because let's say there's a couple high limit races, and I don't know, I guess I have to look at the schedule, but are there two of them fairly near each other in the span of 2 or 3 weeks? Do these guys stay in that area, travel, and just pick out that true outlaw schedule around those? And that's good for them too, not just to gauge during high limit, but then,
just
pick up, go run
learn something new, right?
Yep.
Go learn something new. Or do they do the Danny route and just fly out to some of those races that are out there? And
if you have a car sitting there and waiting for you,
right? I mean, who knows? But we don't. I mean, we know it. They were public about it. I don't know. Maybe these guys have something like it. Who knows? But
obviously, Dylan and Kyle Larson are going to do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, low hanging fruit,
bud. I'm just saying it's
Alex Bowman's not driving his hauler out there. What the hell?
That's my point. Is more than one. It's quite a few of them that are probably going to do that one.
I think it'd be cool. Like I'm with Jay-Z. I think it'd be cool if Paulie leaves. He's a New York guy, right? Mostly, what is it? U.S. whatever it is up there. The big 360 series. Derek Locke just talked about it last week.
Oh, the Empire ESS.
Yeah,
right.
ESS.
I think he's big at that, and I mean, he ran well against the Outlaws up there. I guess cool. That's the kind of you could see. I would love to see him race down here every week. We saw him at the Port Royal opener. I would love to see him come down here and test it too, just because I think he's a really good driver. So,
agreed. Yeah, pretty cool. Hopefully, the country we get a lot of racing in. I'm excited to see not just us, but a lot of other places get going, and they don't have the issues we had. Pretty cool. We're
because
to have a lot of shots at it, but some places get one night.
A lot of these other places are waiting until it makes sense weather-wise to race.
But still, I see here though, we've had so many weeks where it's like day or two off.
Sure,
the weather shifted a day or two.
100%.
Or like the Paddles Day, we get all the races in.
Yeah.
It's just that's the way it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And isn't it wild? Like all the years, like Speed Week, right? And you follow Speed Week, and there's years where you get 1 or 2 rained out. Some years none. Some years 1.
Mm-hmm.
We can't get all racing. Like it's just wild how it works around here sometimes, and the springtime. And we've had springs where we get a lot of races in. Right. We really have. This year's just not been that year. So.
I mean,
we could probably dive into it at some point, but I think interesting things we've seen it more and more over the last few years of Port and Lincoln both moving races up because it makes sense. We saw it with Lincoln this year, straight up adding a date, mostly because they knew that first day the icebreaker was probably not going to happen. That flexibility, that's something that I think track promoters should look at. If you when you can, like more so, and especially if you're taking these chances, why not take more chances? Atomic
did it today.
It didn't work out for him last week, but it did today. And
last week was a charade. It was a sham. This week makes sense.
They did the same thing, though. Didn't they do the pre-sale thing?
They also had to get Rich Farmer, I believe, really came in and helped promote this whole event. So we had a couple more days to help promote it, and it looked like they got got like 31 or almost 30 sprint cars there, and
just
sport mods and whatever else.
When you're trying new things, it may not work out. So I mean, I just applaud them for trying something new, whether we like it or not. It's an attempt, but
no, it wasn't. It was an attempt for them to play defense, not to actually run a race. That means they could have and didn't want to.
Well, there's some other people I know.
Who are they? Like their finances matter. Do a better job at getting your people and your cars and your fans there. Not say, "Hey, bud, 1,000 tickets, or we're just not going to open our gates today." We could, but we're not gonna unless you step up and buy our tickets.
Transparency, I'll take it.
No, it's not transparency. It's weak. Do your job, promote your track, and the people will show up regardless of your sham. You basically said we could race. We would love to. But only if you guys want to show up.
It'd be the only track in Ohio racing. It
should be the opposite. It should be backwards and going, I can't believe how many people called us wonderful racing. No, 1,000 of you buy a ticket, we'll open the gates. Otherwise, we'll just stay home. Fuck you.
Mhm.
Like, no, I disagree completely. I don't think it's them trying anything creative. I think we could, but we really don't want to. You got to make it worth our while. That's not how entertainment works. That's completely backwards in how it should
I
work.
don't disagree with the promotional side. It's not how entertainment works, but
Because it's not promotion.
it got chatter going, so it did that.
It's got bullshit going, and it didn't work.
It didn't work.
They said, "Sorry, piss off. We don't really want you here. Right? Even if there's 800 of you, we don't really want you here. We wanted 1,000."
That's the story that I was gonna take. If they would have came up and like, oh, we only got 700, let's race anyway. They could have really capitalized on this.
Yeah, I don't
But
know
they
if 1,000
didn't do
tickets
that.
was really the number. I think
Right.
they were just maybe it was just kind of like a sense of urgency type of thing, which is that's where I get Jay-Z's point there. It's just kind of bullshit. You're kind of bullying people into doing it, or you don't get a race, which is kind of.
I mean, I saw somebody bought straight up a sponsor came on or some sort, a local business bought a bunch of tickets in the hopes to get this race to happen.
Yep.
There's a lot
There's
there.
like 25 they bought, and they're just
That's
like,
better promotion than the track did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, it's an idea.
But the thing is, with social media these days, you can go. I think Port moved their race up at like 6-7 o'clock the night before, and nobody's missed a beat. I mean, you had a couple. When I got there, like 11:45, and there's still a couple haulers in there, but all the everybody was there already. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like.
I think for a bulk of fans and teams, they're very in tune to the track. It's not the old days. I mean, if you watch, I know Jeremy, you saw it. Billy's live video the other day of his dad talking. He goes, back in our day, we just drove to the damn track. We don't have to do that no more.
Yeah.
We go to the track and then we hit a bar, whatever. That's obviously how you had to do it 20 years ago, whatever it is. And
I mean, I think the teams. I don't think you were ever going to have an issue with a team not realizing that they did it. I think that them moving that race up was always going to get the diehard would be paying attention, knowing when the race changed. And Port Royal has enough of them that they were going to be there and they're watching and they know what's happening.
Right.
What you would have lost there would have been, for me, I want to try to find a race at Millbridge on Wednesday, right? Never been there, don't know their schedule. If I went and I fly out tomorrow and I'm planning on going to Millbridge Wednesday, I'm down there for business, but I'm working. They change the time. I'm not diehard enough and loyal enough and been there enough that I may never see that. Or
you don't follow their accounts. You don't follow their drivers or anything like that.
Let's say you have a family of X amount, the weather's coming, they want to do something, and they were like, oh, Port Royal, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock. And they get there and they're like, what the hell? Y'all been racing for 2 hours. I think Port Royal has enough of a base and a following and a loyal following in town and nearby that those people were going to find out and they were going to be there.
Right.
You would have trouble getting a new person there unless it was somebody that knew somebody, right? So they wanted to race. They made it happen.
That's what I like to hear.
I love it.
Yeah, April I'm pretty excited about. We finally we'll get a 410 race at Selinsgrove, hopefully. I think Baps has another one.
When's the 410 at Selinsgrove?
Baps always has one next weekend.
April 15th.
Oh, it's right around my
16th,
birthday.
whatever that Sunday is. 15th or 16th, whatever that Sunday is.
After,
With Wingless Sportsman's and Brett Barrett,
Yeah, hopefully. And then, obviously we got Port and Lincoln, doubling it up on Saturday nights like they normally do. And then you got, the Grove, doing their thing. So.
Big month. I would love to get to Selinsgrove this month. So I gotta figure out when that date is.
I think it's towards the end of the month. It's like the second Sunday from the end of the month or something like that.
Good enough.
So we'll see. I'm pumped to get there. Yeah. Quick drink it or dump it.
Yeah.
Drink it. Go ahead.
I mean, I think there's a lot to actually drink to this week. I mean, obviously Port for doing their thing, and I also, they've also always been pretty supportive and welcoming of us there. I've been talking to some people there, and want to give them a shout out, not only for all the hard work that they do and just being just really good to everybody that comes there, and just being welcoming and supportive. So and dump it, I'll go to Jason Schultz. Sucked. Would have been cool to see him win, but blowing tires. can you do? Who's
Go,
next?
JC.
All right. Drink it, same Port Royal. Saw Justin Snyder a couple times. He saw me before I saw him. I was looking at my phone walking. He said hi. So I'm down Victory Lane. I mean, he's on the go, still making it happen. And there was a lot of people that left Port Royal to try to get to Lincoln to do the double, and I wanted to, but honestly, I felt obligated to stay there and shoot. I was there with photography and with T2T, right?
Mhm.
And I had the camera in my hand. I felt obligated to stay and shoot all the events. And I just think that that's paying it back for what they've done for us.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying like Jimmy, you shouldn't have done that, because like it wasn't going to change anything.
Yeah.
But I was in the infield and there was late models, and I know some of those guys a little bit, and the place cleared out, and they deserve the support. And listen, if we're media members at Port Royal, they're welcoming. I felt obligated to stay and do that. If I got the Lincoln, I got the Lincoln. I had a feeling it wasn't going to end up happening or got delayed. If I was going to go, then I was going to go. I would have been severely underdressed because I had shorts on. I would have felt like a gigantic moron at the end of that night. But so Port Royal for sure. Lucas Wolf, great to see him in Victory Lane again. I think that's good for all of us. I think it's good for everybody to see Lucas Wolf in Victory Lane in Central PA. Dump it. I start to feel for Williams Grove a little bit. This sucks. I mean, they create some of their own problems, but it sucks. And Jason Schultz, man, like I was rooting pretty hard for them. That's a small team, and they're loyal. They show up. They support. And man, that would have been cool to see that win for those guys, because he was driving his ass off. So I think that's, and the Wagner team and the Yoder team, dumping for those guys we talked about a little bit there, and hopefully they get all the support they need to get them back to the track as soon as possible. I feel like that late model community around here is pretty damn supportive, and that's a pretty good community. I think they'll have him back on the track sooner than later.
Yeah, I think so. Chris?
I think he's to drink it up to Brad Sweet winning Friday night. That's good for him.
I'm
glad he's recovered. And I think also sister drink it up. James McFadden. I'm glad that he could double his win total over last year. I mean, good for him.
This guy bringing it down.
And then you definitely have to dump it. Probably for Danny losing another race. That sucks. I mean, I hope he wins some too. Kind of recovers the way James McFadden and Brad Sweet have.
I set that whole thing up, didn't you? Just to this guy.
Holla
from the top rope. What's going on there, Jimmy? You all right?
Yeah, no, I was trying to get an update from Atomic, but
nothing.
They're nothing. I think they're probably racing right now.
The feature.
Can't wait to Friday night. See Jimmy.
Hell yeah, I can't. Honestly,
Brett Strickler, Billy Dietrich. Danny's probably gonna win. Hope Lance is there.
If there's a night that I want to get to Williams Grove, it's going to be a night where it's 410 and 358s. So I'm pretty pumped that it's going to be it. So should be a great time.
So check out for all the content, because if Jimmy's there and I'm there, we're gonna try very hard to be better at this.
Yeah, we
usually suck, but we've gotten better. So we're gonna get better.
And one thing that we kind of what we'll be able to do too, I think, as we get rolling here is we're 3 people in 3 different parts of the state, kind of. I mean, you guys are closer to each other, but like we'll probably be able to cover multiple tracks in one night. You know what I mean? We're in a weekend, so just been having a lot of people engage with us on social media, which has been great. Keep doing that. Tell us what you want to see, where you want us to go, who you want us to talk to, what you want us to find out.
Let us know who you wanted us to talk to. We're open to a lot of different things this week. Obviously, schedule got in the way, but we love talking to the drivers. We love the at-track stuff, and that's what we're getting back to. So looking forward to it.
Jeremy was down in Victory Lane and starting to, the late models already went, and I was going to try to go and talk to some of the drivers, but I'm telling you, they were wanting to get the hell out of there. It was getting real windy, so that's why I'm like, I'm going to go too. I mean, not that I didn't want to watch the late models, but I thought it was going to pour any second. So Port got lucky a little bit there, but they pushed through. So
Follow us on the
So,
socials.
huh?
Follow us on the socials. Instagram,
Follow us on the
Facebook.
socials. Shout out Keen Motorsports for supporting us. Can't wait to see Kyle on Friday. He made an early call on Saturday to not even go to Lincoln because of the wind and everything. So he saved himself a tow. So shout out to him making the
Business
right decision there.
decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good for them, and yeah, shout out
Yeah.
Jay-Z Photography. Check
Yep.
out his stuff everywhere. Great
Yeah,
stuff.
quick shout out on that too, since we're in the shout out no shout out game. Brett Perigo got a cool picture of our logos on his car this weekend. Can't wait to get out and see him and get shots of that car and support him. He's been a great supporter of ours and just a good friend overall. Saw some cool stickers on Nat Tucky and Kyle's car for Jay-Z Photography. It's been pretty cool first few month or so of the season. Just cool overall, and the support from a lot of the drivers, the pits, most of the tracks, and fans. I mean, the engagement with my website and Facebook page has been pretty cool. I'll keep doing it if y'all love it. So I appreciate all the support, and Jimmy and Chris, and even the guys here. So pretty neat. Saul Strickler, he sent me pictures of like, hey, where do you want your logo on the car? And I think Justin Foster has one. There's a few more floating around out there. So the Rutherford cars, at least I know Tyler for sure got a picture of his this weekend as they were in the pits. Ron sent me one. So super cool to make a lot of neat connections and friends and people that support what I'm doing. Pretty cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
We will see everybody next week. We'll try to have a guest
and Williams Grove.
A guest.
See at Williams Grove.
Race results.
Yeah. We hopefully have some races and stuff and more stuff to talk about, but we have, we're doing this a little impromptu, a little early. When you guys see this, you guys won't see it live. So just let us know in the comments what you think and what you guys want us to hear, what you guys want to hear. And thanks.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. See you next week.
See you.